Hey, this is Russ Miller, and I'm on Musicians on the Record, so let's hit it.
One, two, three, four. This is huge, musicians on the record. Bring it on.
On average, how long does it take to do a movie score versus a record?
It depends on how they do the movies. To be honest with a lot of the guys are kind of spoiled now because
Okay.
what used to happen before was there might be 50 cues in a movie, right? 50 different things, and then they would have to orchestrate everything with MIDI stuff, get it approved. The MIDI stuff from the director, like, okay, yes, we like this, blah blah blah. Then they would go and do all the charts for the orchestra and for me and for everybody else, and then they would book a session. Let's say if it was a lot of drums and percussion, we would just go do drums and percussion as pre-records, and then we would knock out all 50 cues in like 2 days.
Wow.
But now they're a bit spoiled, so now it's kind of like, hey, here's one cue, I need it by tomorrow at 3.
Oh, wow.
Here's cues, I need it by Wednesday.
Yeah.
So some of them will stretch out and take a long time and could be, 25 mini sessions, or something like that. Some of them are still a bit organized where I go on the floor with the orchestra and just knock it out.
Yeah.
So, 3-hour sessions are usually booked in 3-hour sessions. So if there's a double, that means you did like 10 to 1, 2 to 5.
Sure.
And that's one day, and then you might come back another day or something. And so it really depends, what's going on. TV is very always last minute because it's happening every week.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, okay, here's the episode. There's 12 cues, and I need it by Monday morning. And
Yeah. So a typical day in the life for you can be a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Movie scores, records, TV, and getting ready for the gig with whoever, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I'm shedding the Andrea Bocelli show and, getting ready to do that, or I'm, learning a set for somebody. And usually I'm pretty backed up, usually it's like, the records usually kind of get put in line, like, okay, I'll have this back in a week, or I'll have this back in 2 weeks, because the TV stuff comes like so fast and last minute.
Right.
The movie stuff, if they're in the heat of battle with the movie, like, it's mix is coming up or dubbing is coming up, then they're like, oh, I need it by this time, and so it kind of takes precedent.
Sure.
But usually, every single day, 5 to 6 days a week, I'm out here doing something.
Yeah.
And if I'm not here, I'm on the road or at another studio. So
Right. Yeah. You're busy touring with Dom Famularo, right?
Right. We've done a bunch of stuff together.
Yeah.
Dom is a good friend of mine for many years.
Yeah. Can you
And it
talk?
seems like I always tell Dom, like, I literally go all over the world, nowhere near as much as him.
Yeah.
No one does it as much as him.
Right.
But no matter where I went, it could be like, Verona, Italy. They'll go, hey, we just had Dom Famularo here last week.
Right.
So, I mean, no matter where I go, he was just there.
Absolutely. Busy guy, travels a lot, right? Yeah.
I don't even know what like, I'm executive platinum, the highest status on American. They must make another status for Dom, like a whole nother level of something.
Yeah, we just talked. He said he's getting his own plane, so he's all set with Delta. So
I was gonna
he travels
say,
so much. Yeah.
It would have to be something like that.
That's right.
Sure, he has like his own number that he calls in. And,
Right. His own personal valet there.
Yeah, exactly.
For someone who is looking to get into studio work, what's the top 2 or 3 things, Russ, that somebody needs to know?
Well, to be honest with you, most of it has to do with playing and approach to playing.
Sure.
Because I hear a lot of young players now that they just do not have the attention to detail that's needed to execute.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, they might have great chops and they might have, a lot of energy and even a great feel or pocket, but a lot of playing that I hear it's just way too sloppy. It's just there's rushing and there's dragging and there's missing the one and coming a little late. And it's great live and it's great, to see it and go, wow, that was awesome. But I mean, none of that translates to tape.
Right.
And you start to learn the longer you do it that what sort of translates through the microphones and through the music and what doesn't.
Right.
And you can see it. The guys who have done a lot of records, when you hear and see them play, you can see what's going. There's an attention to detail inside of what's going on. Everything is articulate and clear. Yeah. And the tones are consistent. So that the snare drum tone is consistent. It has a dynamic range, of course, but it's not here, then here, then here, then here. Right. That kind of stuff where every time you hear it, it's a different snare tone. Sure. Because that drives the engineers crazy where, it's... or I see a lot of guys who dig the stick into the drum. Right? Like, that's a big no-no because you might not hear it live, but every time you do that, there's a little... Right. That, especially on the bass drum. Like, a lot of guys can only play when they dig the beater into the head. Right. And that creates a little sound. Yep. You got to, be able to get the beater out of the stroke. Okay. And have dynamic in the bass drum, things like that. But a lot of it has to do with playing. The rest of it has to do with, definitely having an understanding of the process of what it takes to capture a performance. And I think the thing that people need to realize the most is that, and I'm always talking to the younger producers about this. Like I did a record for one of the young pop singers whose name escapes me right now, but she's always in the tabloids. And I started to play the song. I got all the notes on the chart. They're very young producers. They're very successful, but they're young. And I started to play the song. I played the intro, played the first verse, go into the chorus. I'm playing, and they go, great. They stop it. Great, that was great. I'm like, okay, what should I change? Oh, no, don't change anything. We got the intro and we got the verse. That's perfect. Let's move on to the chorus. Oh, wow. And I'm going, well, do you want me to do something different in the chorus? No, what you're playing was great. Let's just go ahead and take it now. And I'm like, well, I was taking it. Right. Why did you stop? Right. And we went back and forth. They just, it never even crossed their mind that you would play a song from the top to bottom. Yeah, wow. They just don't even think of music like that. Right. Like it's in these little phrases, 4 and 8 bar loopy type phrases. Yes. Like, we're gonna get the intro, we're gonna get the verse, we're gonna get the second verse, we're gonna get the pre-chorus. And I'm like, man, just let me play the song. Like there's a difference between capturing a performance and assembling a performance. Right, absolutely. We don't want to. A lot of the music now is assembled performances. Right. Half the people can't even execute what they're singing at all. Yeah. So they got to piece it together out of all these things. Right. And years ago, I was listening to Bing Crosby's White Christmas with my daughter yesterday. It's unbelievable. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the pitch is unbelievable. Yeah. The tone is unbelievable. And I'm trying to tell my daughter, Josephine, I'm like, you see Daddy's stuff in his studio. There's mics everywhere and buttons and all that. I'm like, these guys recorded music with one microphone. Right. Amazing. Right. Like they literally positioned them in the room. Yeah. That's how they mixed it. Right. We mixed it by moving you. Oh, you're too loud. Move back a little bit. Right. Right. All right, we can't hear you. Move closer to the mic. Absolutely. And so all of those amazing, great records. I mean, you listen to those big band albums or those amazing classic Christmas songs or whatever. Yeah. It's all one performance, top to bottom. They couldn't punch. There was no punch. That's right. Absolutely. And listen to the Andrews Sisters with those harmonies. and you're going, my goodness, like this was an artist walking into the room, and it was like, I mean, it was like that when I worked with Ray Charles or any of those sort of, where you're like, man, Ray's gonna play now, so
Yeah.
let's make sure everybody recording everything. Yes, everything's recording.
Yeah.
You know, and it was about like, man, this guy's gonna play. Like,
Yeah.
we're gonna capture this. Like, we gotta get this on tape.
Absolutely.
And to have that whole different approach where it's kind of like, well, this guy can't play this top to bottom, so let's just get 4 bars out of it.
Right.
It's kind of scary.
Yeah, sure. Right.
It's a bit scary if you stand back and think about it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's still evolving the musicianship, you know, becoming a better player.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, you know, with technology makes things easier.
Mm-hmm.
And for arts and sports, sometimes it's not the best thing.
Right. Right.
You know, because it allows people to be involved that probably shouldn't be involved.
Right.
To be honest.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
Like they just don't have the talent level to.
Right.
Or they haven't put in the time and effort. Let's put it that way.
Sure. Right.
To be in that situation.
It's not just sounds, you know, sound bits basically, not just bits and pieces. It's music, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's communication and interaction, and
Yeah.
I mean, even what we were talking about earlier, where you're uploading and downloading all this stuff, it's like there's little to no interaction with other players.
Right. Right.
So that's a drag, you know.
Yeah.
But at very least, I want to make sure that it's a capture of my interpretation of this piece of music.
Right.
So top to bottom.
Right.
And I think what most players need to realize, that something that I learned many years ago, was that, you know, playing an instrument is really like being an actor.
Mm.
And it's about interpreting a piece.
Hmm.
And how are you going to interpret it? What do you have to say? What are you going to do that no one else is going to do? And, you know, in clinics, I say, you know, think about it like a screenplay. The director gives it to Robert De Niro. He gives it to Al Pacino.
Right.
They say the exact same word.
That's right. Yeah.
But they do it in a way that only De Niro can do, or only Pacino
Right.
can do.
Right.
They're both great.
Yeah.
But the director goes, I want Pacino to do the role, you know,
Sure.
for whatever reason.
Right.
And you know, you got to think of it that way, playing wise. I see a lot of younger players now. They all play the same, the same attitude, the same approach.
Mm-hmm.
You know, aggressive, busy approach. And
Right.
a lot of them set the drums up the same way, and the cymbals are facing the wrong way. You know,
Right.
whatever.
Right.
And you know, for me, like whenever I see somebody do something like that, and I don't know about you, but I think in the age group where we grew up.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody was so unique. Everybody had a different. Dennis Chambers didn't sound like Simon Phillips.
That's right.
He didn't sound like Dave Weckl.
Right.
You know, he didn't sound like Adam Nussbaum. He didn't sound like Carlos Vega.
Right.
Everybody's different. And as soon as I see somebody do something, I go, wow, that's great, and I might take a concept or an idea from it.
Mm-hmm.
But the last thing I'm going to do is copy it. Like, I don't want to do anything that I see somebody else do. You know.
Right.
We use it as a learning tool, as for a concept or for approach, but the last thing I'm going to do is copy it, because that's his.
Sure.
You know?
Sure. And you want to put your own voice to it, really.
And that's all we have anymore. And I try to tell younger players that, like, you got to understand that when I first grew up, there wasn't any machines yet. We were talking about computers.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was in high school is when drum machines sort of started to happen.
Yeah.
But now you have generations of players that grew up when there was nothing but machines,
Right.
and a large percentage of music was played by machines. And you know, now it's like I can get a machine to play every note perfect,
Right.
you know, in time perfectly.
Yep.
You know, if I use loops and spend enough time programming with a bit of feel and attitude, but what's left that you have as a player? It's interpretation and communication and expression.
That's right.
And you know, your approach to the thing. That's all you have left. So the last thing you want to do is just copy what everybody else is doing in that same thing.
Absolutely.
But I'll tell you, to be straight with you, if I go get 30 or 20 drummers under 30 years old, 18 of them will sound the same.
Sure. Right.
I mean, that's what I've been seeing recently anyway.
Okay. Yeah. So still more evolving to go with their playing, right? Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of them, and I think it's just getting that concept. It might be because of the machine thing, where they're used to music sounding a bit sterile.
Sure.
And it's really about notes and assembling patterns and assembling performances, and they're forgetting about the scope of performance and expression.
Sure.
And I can see why it's happening because of music that a lot of them grew up on.
Right.
I mean, my wife, we went to see my friend Steve Smith plays with Journey.
Sure.
And she had never saw the band before. She loved the band.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of her favorite bands. Steve Perry was one of her favorite singers. And then I played on Steve Perry's solo material. Oh, wow. And he was here in my studio. So he came to the house, and Christine was like, asking us if we need something to drink every 3 minutes. Right. I'm like, you're never out here now. Steve's here. But, she walked out and was just going, man, the band is great. And the music is great and all this stuff. And I go, yeah, I mean, that was what was on the radio when I was a kid.
That's right.
Was Boston and Kansas and Journey and Rush. And,
that's right.
I mean, that level of playing and musicianship and understanding of music, and listen to the vocals in Kansas and the vocals in Journey. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's unbelievable.
Right.
And now you listen to, some of the music. I mean, I know I sound like an old guy, but it's really literally you go, you can't be serious.
Right.
Sometimes I listen to it and go, you can't be serious.
Right, exactly. Well, and then even before Journey, the generation before that with the Beatles, the Stones, and Zeppelin, and the Who, and even before them, Buddy Rich, Gene Krupa, all of those guys, Joe Morello, amazing guys. So,
yeah,
amazing musicians.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely levels of playing that never existed before in the world, but the general running theme of music, especially popular music, is the technicality of it and the execution is definitely gone down.
Yeah.
I think a lot, and it's a shame because there is a lot of guys playing great.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
But doing it in a work environment. In a successful work environment or popular work environment, there's not that much of it. So it's a challenge. I mean, this is a long-winded answer to your question. It's a challenge for this generation.
Yeah.
I think they need to focus on those kind of things
mm-hmm.
and have an understanding of what the big picture is.
Yeah.
For them to be able to compete.
Sure. So who are your favorite, whether drummers or musicians, that you listen to for inspiration, whether from yesterday or today?
Well, I mean, drummers, a lot of different drummers, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, some of the drummers that I think really affected me the most were Steve Gadd, certainly.
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten to know Steve really well over the years, and his approach to life is very similar to his playing, and it's a really pure and honest, thing that he does.
Yeah.
Guys that really affected me a lot. I mean, when I was younger, it was Dave Weckl and Neil Peart and Steve Smith and Vinnie Colaiuta, and I mean that was a little after the Buddy Rich, Gene Krupa stuff.
Sure.
But guys that I really dug, like Denny Carmacy, great rock drummer he played with Montrose for years, and of course all the Heart hits. He was in stuff. Yeah. Carlos Vega, I loved Carlos's playing with James Taylor and Linda Ronstadt.
Yeah.
Of course, Jeff Beccaro.
Sure.
J.R. Robinson, Jim Keltner, all those guys.
Yeah.
Later on, it was Phil Collins. I loved his song drumming.
Sure.
And there's a great example of Phil, who's just an amazing drummer.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a guy who's got an incredible, unique approach and sound.
No doubt, right? No doubt.
It's such a great example of that.
Absolutely.
But like in the jazz perspective, guys like Art Blakey and Max Roach were big influences on me.
Sure.
Tony Williams later on. I never was really into Tony as much as I was into like Billy Cobham.
Yeah.
That sort of more fusiony jazz thing.
Yeah.
I was born a little bit later than that, but Adam Nussbaum, Jeff Hamilton, Peter Erskine, guys that I studied with over the years, like Ed Thickman, had a big effect on me. I studied with Jeff and a little Adam here and there when I was with him, and of course Peter has been an influence on me a lot for movement and touch.
Yeah, and he's an amazing drummer, of course, right?
A great musician, right? An amazing musician.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's the running theme between all those guys. There's some guys that are better, quote unquote, drummers than others. I think all of those guys who really affected me the most, like there's another guy, Andre Ciccarelli, who I think is amazing. One of the great drummers who lives in France. But he's like one of the greatest drummers in the world, period.
Wow.
Jazz, Steve Gadd level, musician.
Yeah. Wow.
Amazing swing player. Steve loves him, by the way.
Wow, that's great.
But yeah, and all those guys that affected me, they played great music.
Sure. Right.
And that was it. It was like there was moments like Vinnie Colaiuta obviously is the best drummer on the planet.
Sure. Right.
But he can play music, man. He knows how to play music.
That's right. It's not just chops or stuff like that. He can put it into musical form. Yeah.
No, look at all the great music he's played.
Sure. Right.
It's just amazing. And Steve Smith is another. The execution was so high, but
yes.
Look at the great music that Steve has played. In his career. It's amazing.
And started out as a jazz musician or jazz drummer more than a rock drummer. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And Steve's a good friend of mine, and we speak a lot. And he is the best student of this instrument I have ever seen.
How so?
He's an amazing student.
Yeah.
He's organized. He's disciplined. He works every day, practicing, researching. Anything that you give him, I hate to show him anything because anything that I could possibly, if there's anything left that I could possibly have that he doesn't,
right.
If he sees it, he immediately sucks it up and does it better than you within like 30 days.
Right. Yeah.
But he's a great student, and I learned a lot from Steve about pushing forward and being a student of the instrument, and just being diligent and organized, and about studying and getting better, and never going, well, I've done this, that, and the other thing, so I don't need to, figure myself or whatever. And
right.
That's the stuff that kind of knocked me out about as I got to know. I was always the little kid around all these.
Yeah.
So now I'm like the older guy, but
right.
I was the kid like in the room. I'm standing in the room. At 21 years old with Elvin Jones and Roy Haynes and Steve.
My God.
Wow. At a Yamaha event or something.
Sure.
And I'm like the kid. I remember doing a run with Elvin where I opened up for him for 9 days.
Holy cow.
For Yamaha with Elvin Jones. And I remember him going, come here, kid, backstage. I go, oh, yes, Mr. Jones. He goes, you're playing. Give me a beer. Yeah. Okay, you're playing, you're going to be a master. You're playing, that kind of. And but I was a little kid, I was around those guys and witnessing it. As I got to know some of them and became closer to them, like Gadd or Steve Smith or somebody.
Yeah.
The thing that knocked me out the most about those guys is that, I would hang out with Steve and he would call me up on stage and we would play like brush duets together.
Wow.
Like for he'd be doing a clinic and I'd be backstage and come on out, we'd play like a brush duet thing.
Yeah.
And I would do something and afterwards he'd go, show me that thing you do with your left hand. I want to see that.
Wow.
And you're going, really?
Yeah, right.
And so those things affected me, and especially with Steve Smith, who is playing at such a high level on the instrument, and for him to be, for him to, have his music book, his study lesson book, full of hundreds of pages of him working on things and trying things, and at this stage, that's inspirational to me.
Absolutely. Yeah, what a great gift for a young musician, a 21-year-old kid, to have all of that support. That's fantastic. Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, absolutely. It was invaluable.
Yeah.
Valuable experiences. Yeah.
You mentioned Ray Charles a few minutes ago. Can you say a little bit more about your time with Ray Charles and your playing, and any kind of stories come to mind for you about him?
Well, Ray was he's a genius.
Yeah.
I did multiple recording sessions with him for a few different projects. Genius and Company, Genius and Friends, different. I get them mixed up which one's which. I think it's Genius and Company.
Okay.
But and then we did a Millennium Sessions thing, and I did other sessions with him for the Disklavier pianos, where we would go in and play, and he would be playing the piano, and then it records what he's doing, and then when you buy the piano, it actually plays back Ray's part live on the piano. You know.
Amazing.
Yeah. Anyway, I mean, he was a kind of a tough guy. I mean, he called me drummer for 3 days straight, you know.
Okay.
And,
that was your name with him, right?
Yeah, Mr. Charles, my name's Russ. Yeah, anyway, drummer counted off. You know.
Okay.
You know, there was some challenges involved where he would, you know, they would want to cut stuff to a click, and you know, he's tapping his foot and going, drummer, follow my foot, you know, and the click, he's not anywhere near the click,
Right,
you know.
right.
But I'm looking at the engineer going, you know, ixnay the click, man.
Right.
Hey.
Gotta follow Ray, right?
Hey, Charles, dude, take the click out.
That's right.
But again, you know, just to play, you know, music with him and to be around him is
absolutely.
It's amazing. I mean, you know, you do a session and you cut the track, and then you know you hear Tina Turner's voice come through the microphone or the headphones, and you go, holy mackerel! Like,
right.
I mean, they were so great that. I mean, I remember when I first worked with George Benson, and I saw him play and heard him in the room, and went, this guy's so great.
Yeah.
He's so great. There's no way he wasn't going to be a super successful, famous, legendary guy.
Right.
Because he's so freaking good.
Right. Great jazz guitarist, right? George Benson? Yeah.
Everything. I mean, as soon as he sings, you're like, geez Louise, man.
Yeah.
Like, these guys they're not really good. Like, they're awesome.
Right.
I mean, incredibly awesome, where you just go, there's just no way that these guys weren't going to be
That's right.
superstars.
Destined, yeah.
Yeah, and you know, that's something you go, man, I just want to keep getting better and keep trying so that, you know, when you do something, you present, I'll never get like that, but, you know, you present like a command at such a high level that people go, this guy's a beast.
Right.
You know, and that's the goal. Like,
absolutely.
You don't ever want them to walk out going, that was good. You want them to walk out going, that was unfreaking.
Yeah, you want them to walk out inspired like you were with George Benson, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I mean, it's something you try to attain, you work towards it. You know, I'm never going to get that way, but I, you know, you're working towards it.
Right. What did you do with Tina Turner? What was your time like with her?
Recording stuff for her all in one album, and other recordings where some of them she was on site, some of them she wasn't.
Okay.
In here in LA, and recording with some of them were younger producers that they brought in to work with her.
Okay.
And I had worked with those producers in different situations.
Got it.
With other artists, so.
Got it. Yep. She's obviously an amazing legend, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Did you ever get nervous when playing with some of these folks, and what did you do to deal with nerves?
Well, yeah, of course, nervous. I mean, and I've done stuff, you know, playing American Music Awards or the Pro Bowl halftime, or, you know, something where or the Tonight Show or something where you go, man, there's a lot of people watching this.
Right.
we only got one shot here.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's really about focusing, and I did one of the articles in Modern Drummer. I did it. It's called Focus on Elimination. And it's really about, for me, I always try to focus on what do I need right now to execute what I'm doing at the highest level possible, and what don't I need? The one thing I don't need is to look up and see, you know, 60,000 people and the camera crews for the Pro Bowl halftime, you know, and go, there's 80 million people watching this or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't need to stare at the hot chick in the front row. I don't need
Right.
so I don't, whatever it is, like, to go, okay, focus on the execution of what I'm doing in its most basic form outward.
Yeah.
Right? So let me get the time solid, the groove feeling good, everything's going on. Now can I add something? Yes. Now can I, execute the part at its highest level? Can I add something to the part? And start and just kind of sink back to, like, let me make sure that I'm doing, like, the most fundamental thing that I have to do.
Yes.
And then let's move out from there.
Right.
And focus on, executing. I remember, with some of the younger artists, the Hillary Duffs or the Nelly Furtados or whatever over the years, we'd be a little older than them, and they get super nervous or something. I remember with Jennifer Love Hewitt one time, I think it was on the Tonight Show actually, and it was like one of her first or second gigs ever.
Wow.
Ever.
Yeah.
And I remember telling the AR guy for Jive Records backstage, he's like, "Oh, Jennifer's really nervous or something." I'm like, yeah, because we've done 100 bazillion gigs,
Right.
uncountable numbers of gigs,
Right.
and so we just go out and play.
Yeah.
This is like her third gig ever in the history of her holding a microphone, and you got her on the Tonight Show.
Right. No pressure.
I think she's gonna be, you know.
Yeah.
But I remember telling Jennifer one time, like, look, no one can sing your song tonight better than you. So just go sing your song.
That's great.
And focus on singing and executing your song.
Absolutely.
And that's all you can do.
Right.
And that will translate because there's an honesty in that that translates where the audience goes, man, she's just singing their song the best she can, and she loves that song, and she loves singing, and she was a really good singer. So I think that's true with everybody's playing and performances. You have to be honest,
right?
And that translates through so many things. Like, you have to be honest about what are you doing right now on the drums. Are you trying to show off?
Right.
Are you trying to prove to other drummers how much chops you got?
Right.
Are you trying to get a reaction out of the crowd so you cross your arms over?
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
What are you trying to do? And if you're trying to play that song at the highest level that you can, with the most honesty you can, that will, in my opinion, that will always supersede and translate all that other smoke and mirror stuff.
That's great. So real authenticity, it sounds like. Just be yourself, be authentic.
Think about the great drummers, though.
Yeah.
That's all they ever did.
Right.
And I mean, even Buddy, who was a showman and did all that stuff, he did exactly what I'm saying, though.
Right.
It was the core stuff was so happening.
Right.
I mean, his groove and time and feel was so on fire that he could go to the next level and have chops and have facility. And that was so on fire, he could go to the next level and, do visual stuff.
That's right.
And stick thing and and have fun with the audience, because every single thing below it was so honest and so together and happening.
Absolutely.
It's when one of those things is gone and then you shoot over here and you're spinning your sticks, but the time's moving around, or something.
Yeah.
That's when it goes left,
Yeah, well, and that's first and foremost for drummers. We serve the music, we keep the time, and then everything we can do on top of that, right? Yeah.
I mean, there's no great bands with bad drummers.
Right. Right. That's right. Exactly.
We have too much control and too much power over what's going on.
Absolutely.
I mean, you could have Chick Corea and Eric Clapton and Stevie Ray Vaughan in the band. If the drum's not happening, band sucks.